What's up, guys? Block FPL here, and today it's time to discuss some Game Week 22 decisions and also review Game Week 21. We'll have a bit of a Q&A as I have some questions to answer from FPL community members. If you enjoy the video, give it a like and consider subscribing. So here's my Game Week 21 review. I have my rank. I'm now ranked 79,504 overall. I captained Vardy. Obviously, he didn't play, which was great because it allowed Jack Grealish to come in for me. A great run of luck I've experienced over the past 2 or 3 weeks has really caused my rank to, I've been getting in the green arrows very consistently now. Ings, Abraham, Madison, Grealish, Mane, Alexander-Arnold, and Soyuncu all give me returns. Guaita with a 3-pointer. Can't be too disappointed because the matchup was away. Although the double down on Crystal Palace was a fail for me. If that would have hit, then my green arrow would have been even, much huger. No points left on the bench. Holgate and Lundstrom both didn't do anything, but they will likely see a spot back in my starting lineup next week. Looking at this team, you may be like, well, what transfers are you going to make? Well, it's been tough for me to decide that as well. And also captaincy is tough. But before we get into those things, let's look at some questions from Twitter. So, Vlad says, do you think it is worthwhile to triple up on Liverpool attack during this run of fixtures? Salah or Mane with TA or TA with Mane and Virgil van Dijk? You could use the money in other places if you get the double defense. So for me, okay, a lot of questions are like this, or a lot of people are wondering this, and I am going to be tripling up on Liverpool for this double game week that's coming up. For me, my answer in general is whichever combination of the 5 players of Salah, Mane, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, and Virgil van Dijk work best for you, then you should probably do that. Because there are a lot of good midfielders right now. So for me personally, I have a lot of good midfielders. Like all 5 of mine are playable almost any week. So it's not really as worth it for me to go up and get Salah. Obviously, I do think Salah will outscore some of my midfielders. But considering I'd probably have to, make maybe 2 transfers to get the necessary money in without getting rid of TAA, I'm probably going to end up getting Robertson or Van Dijk, because then I could just downgrade one of my midfielders and Grealish to a 4.5 or Martial to a 4.5 or something like that, and then I go from Martin Kelly up to Robertson. So that's my plan at the moment. In terms of which one's better in general, like I said, I think it depends on your team, but I don't think you should triple up on the defense. I think you should have one of Mane or Salah at least. Just because they're going to be the most consistent options over the course of the season, and they're going to score the goals. Salah's been getting a lot of chances. Mane's just been having higher quality chances and higher quality finishing. So I don't know. Just make sure you get 3 for a double game week is my answer. Don't stress too much about it because Liverpool is looking so well right now. A lot of clean sheets in a row. Salah and Mane both looking good. They're all good options. We can sit here and say, one might be better than the other, but given the price difference and the fact that the defenders are cheaper, as long as you think you can spend that money good, elsewhere, I don't have a problem with either move. But you can't go wrong with Salah and Mane because they're the only real premium options, midfielders besides De Bruyne, that's really doing well. So another question is from Kalaluka Munga, and he asks what to do with Sterling. He already has Salah, and he's short of enough cash to do a straight swap for Mane. So again, another Liverpool midfield-based question, and this sort of comes into play, like how much are we valuing getting Salah and Mane? So my instinct tells me that you probably have a player you can downgrade in order to get the necessary money to get in Mane for a hit. I do think you should look to sell him, as he definitely isn't worth his price, Sterling. But you can keep him for the next 2 more game weeks. Perhaps make other transfers to get you the necessary money for Mane, and then bring Mane in for Sterling right before the Liverpool double game week. I think that's a safe option given the fact that Liverpool's next 2 fixtures could be tough just because they're against big teams. I mean, are we going to see the regular big teams like how they've been playing, which is pretty poorly? Maybe not Manchester United, but Tottenham, haven't looked great recently after losing to Southampton 1-0. But I think for the big games, they could really get up for it with some decent managers behind them, and we don't really know quite what to expect from those games. So I could understand sticking with Sterling, considering he has Aston Villa and then I believe Crystal Palace after that. So I can understand keeping Sterling for 2 more weeks. I know for a lot of people it's been a struggle keeping Sterling way too long this far, but I think 2 more weeks max for Sterling. I mean, you have to be looking to get rid of him. He's just not worth the price. So I think that's the safest way to play it. 2 more weeks on Sterling, and then build up the money that you need, and then just switch over to Mane, and then next thing you know, you got Mane and Salah for a double game week. And even if you have to do a hit, I think it might be worth it. So Dr. FPL, double up on Liverpool defense or attack. Again, whichever one fits you best. And Mape or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Just on a better team. I think he's going to get a little bit more consistent minutes, hopefully. He didn't have any shots against Manchester City, but it's Manchester City. And I think the fixtures are a little better for Everton as well. Because Everton play Brighton next, and Everton's better than Brighton. That's one of the reasons why. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say Dominic Calvert-Lewin on that. I think he is sort of an option for me personally, but I'm happy with my strikers at the moment and no need to change. But if you're looking for them cheap options, Calvert-Lewin got a lot of upside to him, given that if Everton can actually start scoring a lot of goals consistently, which I think they have a higher chance of doing that than Brighton, it could be a real upside player. So, definitely Calvert-Lewin for me. Filud, I guess that's how you say that. He asked what to do with this lot. So I've looked at this team, and I'm going to say, given the fact this guy says he doesn't really want to make too much of a risky transfer, given his rank's pretty solid, I'd be happy with 140K at this point in the season, that's for sure. But yeah, he does say he was looking to get rid of Ali and Rico, and I would definitely look to do that. First of all, I think you could start Lundstram over Rico. Obviously, Lundstram hasn't been great, but it's Lundstram at home, and Watford has been looking good against Rico, and Bournemouth has just been so bad. I don't see any reason to play Rico. He did have a shot on target that could have sort of went in last game, because I was watching the highlights of the Bournemouth game earlier, and he does have those every now and then when he rips a long shot, and he's got real quality in that, and one of those is going to fly in at some point, but it's too hard to predict. Lundstrom's still got more goal threat in my opinion, so I say play Lundstram this week over Rico, and then I would go ahead and get rid of Ali. You gotta figure out who to get in for Ali. That's the thing. It's sort of a tough one, but there are options out there. Me and you basically have the same midfield except for Grealish. If you want to, you could take a hit. You could go Ali down to a cheap midfielder, and then you could go Greenwood up to a striker like Calvert-Lewin or Ings or something like that. So there's options there. I don't know who to get for Ali because of the matchups of people like Grealish, but I'm going to say that you should get rid of Ali. That concludes the questions. Thanks if you submitted a question. I do appreciate it, but let's get to the Game Week 22 preview and my decisions. I got some tough decisions to make because I don't really see a clear transfer for me to make. It's probably going to be a goalkeeper transfer, but I will get to that later. I know it's very exciting. But side note about goalkeeper transfers, I actually think they're, like, a lot of people look at them as sort of pointless. I don't think they're pointless. For example, a lot of people will agree with me when I say that, like, swapping out big players is typically not worth it because over the course of the season, people like Mane, Salah, De Bruyne are going to get about the same amount of points. You just sort of have to ride out with one because it's kind of hard to predict when they're going to score their points because the fixtures aren't as important to them because their teams are so good that they can score points in any game. So it's best to stick it out and use your transfers elsewhere on teams that are bad. Because their fixtures are more important, so you got to hit the fixture swings on them. You probably get this, but then at the same time, people will agree with that, but then also say, hey, I don't think goalkeeper transfers are as effective. And this is true when you look at it from the perspective of they're capped on how many points they can get. Like, goalkeepers don't get hat tricks and stuff, and really the only way they can have high scoring games is when they happen to get bonus because nobody else does anything in the game, or if they save a penalty, obviously, and then keep a clean sheet with it. But those just aren't as rare as, like, scoring a brace or getting a goal and an assist or something like that. So I get that, but when you have a goalkeeper that's coming up on tough fixtures, you should and you don't have anything else to do, just get rid of him, and you're at least increasing your chances of your goalkeeping getting more points. If nothing else, if you can't see anything else to do, that's the surefire way. Hey, I'm increasing my chances of getting more points. So, but let's get back to this. So captaincy is tough, and there's a lot of options. So my short list of options is Tammy Abraham, KDB, Martial, Alexander-Arnold, Mane, and Vardy. I'm a big fan of Abraham's fixtures, and he's on a great team, but I'm just not sure if I can trust his quality. Watching the Chelsea games, I haven't been impressed with his first touch, and his decision-making in general isn't amazing. But he continues to show the willingness to move in the box, and his finishing isn't too horrendous. I think his heading accuracy, especially from corners, he needs to get some more of those in. He hit one at the goalkeeper last game, and he's done that in the past a lot, barely hitting them over or hitting them wide or something like that. So he's a big captain option for me just because Burnley at home. Burnley have been conceding goals, in case you haven't noticed. Chelsea aren't quite the strong attacking force that they were. I don't know, when was that, a month ago, back when like Pulisic got his hat trick, and then obviously before that, months before that, Abraham was getting the hat trick and the braces. So it's not quite the same, but just because of the matchup, he's the first one I have to list here because Burnley at home is just so good. KDB is a little bit too far away from the goal a lot for my liking, but his quality when he gets his chances for goals or assists is certainly there, so he's got to be on this list. The matchup is also good for him, but it's more about how he gets used. Like if somehow he plays right wing again or like an attacking role, where it just depends on how Aston Villa decides to defend him and what they want to try to stop with Man City. That's what I think anyway. He did get an assist last time against Aston Villa, and if I remember that game correctly, he was creating a lot, and he got unlucky that his teammates only scored 1 goal. So he's got to be on the captaincy, options for me. Martial, Norwich at home, just such a great fixture. He had 0 shots versus Arsenal, but we have to consider, were Arsenal just really good or Manchester United bad? And if Manchester United were bad, it is cause for concern, but at the same time, they haven't been consistently performing. So against Norwich at home, Martial did score against Norwich last time, and I think that they're going to be sitting back more. A lot of times on counterattacks, you'll see Rashford is the one that ends up getting the shot off. That's just something he's good at. And Daniel James, obviously, those are 2 players that are really great on counterattack, but whenever teams have to sit back, sort of like the games that Martial scored recently, it's not, well, I guess he was handed some goals too. It's a tough decision. Right now, I believe I have Martial captained, and I might change it because of the fact that I am remembering that he was handed some goals that he didn't really earn through passing play. The defense just messed up, and he just sort of was there, which is a good sign, and Ings has had those goals as well, but I just don't really see that being a consistent thing with Martial. So Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mane, this is interesting because, again, we have to consider how are the big teams going to play against each other. Are Tottenham going to be their usual poorly performing selves as of last game, or are they going to be hyped up about trying to beat this Liverpool team that right now is undefeated in the Premier League? I think I'm sort of leaning towards the second option because it's Jose Mourinho, and I just feel like these are the sort of games that he's good at because he likes watching the big teams. I mean, obviously it wasn't the case against Chelsea, but I think Chelsea had so many motives to beat him that game that it was just different. But I just never know what to expect and what Jose can pull out with this Spurs team. That's why I'm probably just sticking away from them, but there's always some sort of doubt with all these captaincy options. And another one of these players is Vardy. I just need news on his situation, but I can't decide whether to just leave it alone or to set him as my captain and hope he either starts or doesn't play at all. If I know for a fact that he's going to start, I think I'm going to captain him again. I mean, I've captained him so much this season. But the thing is, KDB is almost like the most solid option, I think, just because, yeah, he might not always be the one that's getting all the shots, but he's going to start, and he's got a good matchup, and he's on a good team that will score goals. So the simplest captain here is KDB, but I might have to go a little bit differential. Not differential. I just have to decide who I think is going to get more points. KDB, Abraham. It's going to be really tough. I'll have to go back and watch some more highlights and see how Burnley played against like a center striker. I think they have conceded some goals to center strikers recently, and I'll have to get more in depth in that. Like I believe Burnley conceded goals to, who was it, Martial? And, that's not too far off from Abraham, I guess. Martial's movement isn't, he's not really that much of a natural striker. They play completely differently, though, so that's not even really comparable. But right now, I think the most solid options are Vardy and KDB, given Vardy is so contingent on whatever news comes out with his injury in quotation marks, because I think he really just wants to see his baby. So, transfer. Now, this one's an interesting one. Obviously, I'm looking at transferring a goalkeeper in, as I mentioned earlier. So Guaita out and Pickford in is what I'm looking at. Yes, Jordan Pickford. Okay, so I don't see any other transfers that would help my team as clearly as this one. At least with this transfer, I know my goalkeeper is more likely to get points over the next 2 weeks than Guaita. Pickford has better fixtures and is also on a team that's been defending slightly better. The fixture of Guaita, these fixtures for him are the main thing. I have to say that. But Everton have also kept 2 home clean sheets in a row, and the home game before that, they beat Chelsea 3-1. So 3 good home performances in a row. Guaita's playing Arsenal, then Man City. Everton only conceded 2 goals to Man City. That's not bad. They've been respectable defensively in their last games, and home matchup against Brighton, not bad, and then some good matches after that as well, so I could keep him for more than just the 2 weeks where Guaita has bad matchups. So this is probably the transfer I'm going to make just because I don't see anything else to do. And when else do you get a chance to just fuck around and all of a sudden you have, all your players have good matchups instead of just 10 and not your goalkeeper. And I haven't really had a premium keeper since game week, when I start off with Ederson. But Pickford, I'd put him in that almost premium category. So other options I have are Foster. Watford have been looking a lot better. I could do something crazy to get Salah, which would probably be like a -8. It'd be -4 because I have 2 free transfers. Or I could go ahead and get VVD or Robbo, and I could do that. Getting rid of Grealish or Ings, which is sort of risky. Both those players, great form, talisman of their teams, but I just have to decide, is one of them going to fall off in form? Is the team going to fall off in form? Because it's the same thing, If Grealish and Ings fall off in form, then the teams will struggle pretty significantly offensively. So if I start seeing one of those things happen, I'll probably make those transfers in the future. But right now, I'm leaning towards getting Pickford. I can delay my decision making on this because I don't see any price rises of any of these players I'm considering coming up soon. So that's good. I'll probably double up on the Liverpool defense before the double game week. So those are my plans at the moment. Transfer goalkeeper. Look to get in a third Liverpool player. However, that I do that. Hopefully, there will be some sort of information that comes out in the next week that I can really take advantage of. Another thing that to note when you have 2 free transfers and when there's no real problems in your team, injury to a big player, a highly owned player, would be good for me. I mean, this is a bad thing to say, but even if it's one of my players and everybody else owns them, like a Lundstram or somebody, I have the freedom to easily just get rid of him and get another option in. While if somebody else is already struggling with their team right now, that might be enough to force them into a wild card or something like that. So I don't know, it just feels good to have this. But the only problem is I'm going to have right now Grealish and Ings on the bench, and I'm very worried about that. I may have to, between captaincy and benching decisions, which have been so tough because of the depth of my team at the moment, I may have to go back to asking Donna, the great cat Donna, who to play and who not to play and who to captain. So that will be interesting, but let me know what you think I should do with this team because there is a lot of options here. And I hope you have a good game week unless you have players that I don't have. And then I hope you have an absolutely terrible game week. Anyway,